What's going on, guys? This is Bobby Douglas. Welcome to another 2021 NBA Draft Prospect full game video breakdown. Today we are taking a look at the highest ranked guy by the consensus that I have not done a video on yet. That is obviously G League Ignite star Jonathan Kuminga. Very highly touted prospect coming out of high school. He elects to go to G League route along with Jalen Green, Daishen Nix, and Isaiah Todd. And he had a pretty good season there. You know, he averaged 15 and 7. For the year. His shooting numbers weren't great. 38% from the floor, 24% from three, 62.5% from the free throw line. But I do think he kind of showed enough for me to be solidly fifth on my big board. I think he's not going to go any lower than that, not going to go any higher. I'm excited to watch him play today. And let's go. This is a game against the Greensboro Swarm. And I'm going to just get out and say it. I apologize for the video quality on this one. Again, when you're trying to find pirated NBA games, it's tough to find on YouTube, but we did find it. So Kuminga's gonna be number 0 in the white. He's right here. I'm circling him. We'll watch him play. Probably one of the higher upside guys in the class. He's getting a lot of top 5 looks. A lot of slander, not slander I should say, but just a lot of negative press coming out about Kuminga right now. But say what you want, Scotty Barnes can't do this, right? Just going to set his guy up backdoor and then rise and fire. Again, he's so quick off the ground, so explosive as a leaper. We see it right there. Scotty Barnes, he's the guy. I'm not trying to rip on Scotty Barnes. I have him 6, but I'm kind of just giving you my reasoning as to why Kuminga is solidly locked in at 5 for me. Scotty Barnes, great player, does a lot of things really well. He can't just rise and elevate that quickly, right? And so I think Kuminga, just his explosiveness, his fluidity at 6'8", I'm willing to take some of the shortcomings that he displayed this year in the G League bubble, in stride because of that fluidity, right? And so when I'm watching him as just kind of a two-way wing potentially who can be a go-to scorer, right? Who has enough playmaking chops and overall vision to make defenses pay for over-helping on him, right? And, I think he could really be one of the better guys in this class. And, I'm not ready to have him top 4. I don't think I will be before draft day. Actually, no, I know I won't be. He's definitely a step below the top 4 in my view. But I do think kind of lumping him in with, the Scotty Barneses, the James Bouknights, the Franz Wagners, I think that's probably a little bit of a mistake. I think Kuminga is rock solid for me at 5. And, this game will kind of illustrate why. He's going to have a lot of mistakes, have a lot of bad misses, some turnovers, some defensive lapses, all that, not going to have a perfect game, but just kind of the highs that he shows in this game, whether it be the shot creation, the explosiveness, the fluidity, the quick twitch athleticism that he has. I'm willing to kind of gamble on that and make him a top 5 pick. So if I'm Orlando at 5, I'm taking Jonathan Kuminga, but I don't know if they're going to end up doing that. We'll see. That's just kind of my thoughts on Kuminga. I kind of went back and forth a little bit. I had to read some of the negative stuff that was coming out about him. Maybe he doesn't have the best work ethic. People in the G League bubble tended to not get along with him, but he was a little bit more aloof as a player. I had to read all that. I took that into consideration. He obviously had some stinkers in the G League bubble. I don't think anybody's going to dispute me on that. But I just think overall, when you're looking at ceiling and what Kuminga can become, I personally think that's enough for me to have him in the top 5. So again, he had that dunk early. Hasn't really done much in the first 3 minutes here. And this obviously is a G League bubble game. What did we say about G League games when we were talking about we were doing the Jalen Green video, right? Kuminga doesn't get that rebound right there, but again, he only actually finishes with 2 rebounds in this game. He averages close to 7. So if you don't really see him attacking the glass or maybe just not getting every rebound, I would say don't be really alarmed by that. I think he's a very, instinctful rebounder. Instinctive rebounder? I don't know what the word is. But, so I think he's a good rebounder, things like that. And you can see right here, just, again, the explosion, the end-to-end speed is there, right? He's running the floor really well. Jalen Green's going to find him. And then he gets off the ground so fast. He dunks it so fluidly. It almost it doesn't even look like he breaks stride, really, which I think is kind of cool. You see a lot of these guys trying to go for the poster dunks. Kuminga doesn't really go for poster dunks. It's just kind of straight up, straight down. He's moving forward, and it just kind of he times his jump so perfectly for him to be right at the rim. when it's time for him to dunk it. And I think that's kind of impressive, kind of unique about him, I would say. But just remember when we're watching these G League games, obviously it's going to be, there's a replay of that dunk. And again, just like so fluid, so quick, The G League games are obviously played like AAU games, right? They're very up and down. They are pretty sloppy, a lot of mistakes on both teams. A lot of offense, obviously, a lot of isolation basketball, And, you gotta remember, like, a lot of these teams are kind of just thrown together, especially this year, because not every G League team was in the bubble. Right here, you can see Kuminga trying to get that back door. This is something that I think he's really good at. He's really good at kind of knowing when to cut, right? And so right here, you're going to see him try and backdoor his man. They actually maybe got a step on there. The pass wasn't really there, and then I think his defender did a pretty good job kind of shielding him away from the basket, but he did get called for a foul, so Kuminga will be at the free throw line, I believe. Nope, never mind. That's just going to be a foul out of bounds. But, regardless, though, like, the G League games, like, this year especially, not every team in the G League put their team there. And so a lot of these guys were kind of like thrown together on various teams. And so, that's kind of something important to keep in mind when especially watching these games just from a quality of basketball standpoint. So I think that's something to just kind of monitor. And we got Kuminga on the right wing right here. And yeah, you can see Jalen Green's out right there. Kuminga's kind of in that block, kind of roaming the paint. The good thing about Kuminga, too, I think, is you could play him at either forward spot because he's such a good rebounder and has the tools to be a good defender at 6'8". 6'8", what does he weigh? 205. He has the tools to be kind of like one of these, like, elite two-way players in the NBA. And I hate using the phrase two-way because it's just like, oh, he's a good basketball player. But I think you guys know what I mean. Like, when we talk about two-way guys, it's more like the Kawhi Leonards than it is the Kevin Durant, right? Kevin Durant, like, he's a decent defender, but we're not classifying him as like a 3-and-D guy. You know what I mean? And I think Kuminga can kind of fall into that mold where he's like a very good defender and then known for that defense, right, along with his offensive production if everything clicks. But right now, has a lot of things to work on. The shot for him is a little bit rough. Decision-making and overall shot selection can be subpar at times. Defensively, his effort is very hit and miss. There are a lot of things to work on, a lot of things to be concerned about. But I think he offers at 5 probably the highest upside of the guys that should be available at that pick for Orlando. And that's why I have him there as opposed to like a Scotty Barnes or things like that. Because just like the overall fluidity of Kuminga, like he moves and he kind of like just maneuvers his way right there. Classic example of Kuminga just kind of holding onto the ball too long. Actually, I have to go back another 5 seconds to see the entire possession. But you'll see it right here. Again, right here, like this could be a shot, but he's just kind of trying to, I don't know what he's trying to do. And again, he just kind of loses focus. Granted, I don't know what this guy in the corner was doing, kind of just running to the corner and not giving him any space, really. That just eliminated like any chance of a successful possession for the Ignite team. And that wasn't really on Kuminga, I would say. But again, he does kind of hold on to the ball a little bit too long, trying to maybe look for his own shot or maybe just taking a little bit too long to make a decision. Regardless, that's definitely a concern with him, but I think that improves. But what was I saying? About just like the overall upside of Kuminga, I think is like too high for me to pass up on at 5, because if you look at like all the guys past Kuminga, Scotty Barnes, like all those guys, they don't like have that combination of size and fluidity that he does. And I think, again, like fluidity and how you move on an NBA floor, I think that's super important. And that's something I value very highly. I'm sure you guys have heard me say like fluid mover probably like dozens of times, right? That's something that I just really value, especially at Kuminga's position and size. Not everybody has that, and so I'm in on Kuminga for those reasons. And we gotta remember, like, the first few games of the G League Ignite bubble, like, Kuminga was considered, like, the can't-miss prospect, right? He was shooting well from 3. He showed pretty good decision-making instincts. Again, that passing, I do think, is an underrated element of his game. He was pretty locked in defensively, and then as the season went on, he missed some games because of injuries. The effort wasn't always there. The shot kind of waned off in terms of accuracy. And so it became, like, the Jalen Green show, I would say, towards the end of the year. But those first few games, it was Jonathan Kuminga's, kind of show, right? And he's out for like 20 minutes of YouTube time right here. That's the thing about these streams, right? You got to navigate like a shit ton of time in between, but he's in right here. So we'll skip ahead. Again, we've missed the entire rest of the first quarter, and now he's just checking back in. But I remember in the first mock draft I did back in, I think, March, like, I had Kuminga going second overall to the Wizards, right? Funny how things change when you try to do a mock draft in March, right? First off, Kuminga has no chance of going second overall. Next, the Wizards end up making the playoffs, right? It's just kind of like a, funny thing to see. But, I was really high on Kuminga, and then gradually he kind of just slipped down my board as Evan Mobley, as Jalen Green, as Jalen Suggs kind of kept improving. So that's kind of something right there. Like right here, for example, I'd like to see Kuminga offer a little bit more resistance defensively, right? He kind of just is willingly accepting death on this screen, right? Until he'll go under a lot. Right there, he could have offered a better contest. The shot doesn't go in, but I think Kuminga, given his overall tools and fluidity and movement and lateral speed, right, I think he needs to do a much better job defending because right now he's really underselling his potential, I would say, right now. Right there, he's going to make this shot. And again, just some of the flashes that you see of the 3-level scoring ability with Kuminga, right? His handle is pretty good, I think, right? He's just kind of like the 2-dribble pull-up. Hesitates a little bit, and again, his shot, it almost looks like he has to get it perfectly on his hands and in the right exact spot before he releases it. He doesn't really have a super flexible release, I would say. But he makes that one right there, and again, just kind of showing the flashes just of the, the self-creation abilities due to that handle. I think his handle is very underrated right now. And yeah, I think with Kuminga, like everything kind of, if everything clicks, like you're looking at a guy who's probably top 3 in the class, and you can only say that about a handful of guys. And so that's kind of where I am in on Jonathan Kuminga. And again, like, listen, there have been guys, we got to also take into account like the level of competition he's playing against. We'll see what he does right here, kind of has the entire floor to himself. Again, you can see the handle. He likes going to this post-up. And again, that's a really nice find for Jalen Green. And this is what I mean, where it's like, he kind of has that ability to just draw defenders in, and then he can kind of pick passes out from that. So right here, he kind of has the entire side of the floor to himself, right? He's going to attack off the dribble, which is a smart thing. Goes to that post-up, right? The second the double is drawn, right, and like you can see this weak side guy is kind of missing out on Jalen Green. Kuminga's going to rifle a one-handed pass to Jalen Green and puts him in a good opportunity to score, right? And so I do think like the vision of Kuminga is really underrated and under-talked about, I would say, just as like a prospect, because that could be like make or break in some aspects. Like that could really just raise his ceiling, I think, in the long run. Because if he can have that kind of vision out of being guarded heavily, right? That's something that I think could really, really do him well. That's the kind of thing with Kawhi Leonard, too. Like, Kawhi Leonard obviously wasn't really, like, coming in as, like, a go-to scorer in the NBA, like, out of San Diego State, right? But as that scoring talent kind of, came to fruition for Kawhi, all of a sudden he becomes a much better passer because he works on his passing, right? And he has that vision. And so once once the scoring kind of comes together, the passing then comes together as well because, you're seeing things a lot more clearly, right? You have a lot more guys on you, thus more openings for other players. And so, like, Kawhi did a really good job of recognizing, like, his overall scoring gravity, right? And I think Kuminga kind of is a candidate for having a similar development story in terms of, like, okay, what gets him on the floor first? Is it, like, the defense? Maybe. Is it, like, what gets him on the floor? Have something that gets you on the floor, get really good at that thing, and then the scoring will come, and then ultimately, like, the creation skills come with that as well. Right here, I don't know what happens. Nobody guards the inbounder. Kuminga's going to rise and fire. Can't hit this one. And you can see we'll take a slow motion look at his mechanics. So, again, it looks like, it's pretty narrow. I worry about his range, even though he is shooting from NBA range right now, which is good. He shoots 2 of 7 from 3 in this game, so not bad for his season standards. But again, like, he'll have a lot of bad misses. You can tell, like, he's not super confident in his mechanics. The workout videos that, you see posted of him, like, the shot always looks better in the workout videos. That's, again, like, I can only go based on, like, what I'm in person or what I'm, like, seeing in games right now. And hopefully I would get the chance to go to some draft workouts and see these guys in person, right? But, right now, like, I can see the form improving and everyone's just like, oh, yeah, it looks a lot tighter. It looks, like, a lot better, right? Until I really see it in a game, right? I'm not really going to, like, comment on that, I would say. But just know that the form is allegedly getting better with Kuminga. I'll say that. You can see him kind of being the low man right there. And again, this little things like this, like Kuminga, for being a 7 rebound a game guy, he really doesn't show it often. You know, he won't box out his guy ever, right? He kind of just maybe, I think a lot of his rebounds are due to just him kind of like camping in the lane defensively, right? And so like right here, this is his guy, and like Kuminga doesn't even look at him, and he gets his own not his own rebound, but just like he gets the offensive rebound, leads to a basket, right? So just kind of like that attention to detail with Kuminga defensively, I think lacks for the majority of the time, right? He won't box out. He'll, get caught ball watching, all that stuff, right? He thinks the play is over once the shot goes up, right? And so I think that's definitely something that he needs to improve on as he heads into the NBA. But again, just like the overall competition level that these guys are playing against, these are NBA guys. A lot of these guys got time on an NBA floor this year. And so it kind of becomes like, okay, so Kuminga shot 38%, 24%, 62.5%. That's obviously not good, right? Like, it's not good. Jalen Green, for example, had a way better season in terms of shooting the ball. But, like, how many rookies are really doing that great percentage-wise in the NBA anyway, right? And so you got to think about it, like, he's basically playing NBA, like, G League games, right? Which are, like, a step below NBA games, since a lot of these guys are NBA players in the past or will be in the future. And then he's also playing basically 2 years younger than where he should be at this stage in his career, right? Because you got to remember, like, first off, he was a 2021 guy, right? It was him and Chet Holmgren for that top spot in 2021. He ultimately decides to, reclassify, enter the G League Ignite program. Right there, I think his shot got blocked. Let's see. But again, decent cutter, right? He just kind of crashes the glass and just can't get that one to go. Nick Richards, I think, blocked that. You could see right there, and we got swarm ball. But he reclassifies first off, and then he enters the, straight to from high school to pro, type of deal, right? And so you're really looking at it like he should be a senior in high school right now, and he's holding his own on an NBA G League floor, which I think is really kind of encouraging for his long-term development, because most rookies don't shoot the ball well. Most rookies aren't great defenders, right? It takes time for them to develop. And overall, I kind of think that the learning curve for Kuminga might be a little bit more flat than people are saying, just because like he has experience playing in NBA-like settings, right? Especially considering that he's 2 years younger than what he should be doing right now, right? He should be a high school senior. He's playing professional basketball, right? Right here, you'll see Kuminga kind of like come up of this little screen, right? Again, good job setting this guy up right here. Rise and fire, one dribble, perfect switch. And again, like, if that gets a little bit more fluid, right now it's a pretty set shot. Doesn't really get a whole lot of elevation off the ground, right? If he can really kind of like translate his explosiveness at the rim, like to his jump shot, right, where he can get up off the ground pretty quickly, right? He gets his mechanics ironed out. Then he becomes like, okay, like this guy can put it on the floor. He can attack the rim if he wants to, but then now you have to worry about his shot too. Like that for me is a recipe for success for Kuminga. And I think with the mechanics kind of being ironed out, hopefully that actually happens and he becomes a lot smoother, with that shot from deep. That should really improve his overall game, I would say. Right here we got Ignite bringing the ball at the floor, 3.5 minutes left in the second quarter. And we got Kuminga not going to get the ball here. This is going to be Jalen Green show. Nope. Deep three. That will not go in. So, yeah, I mean, like, you just got to take into account a lot of different factors here. He's basically a 17, 18-year-old kid. He's a high school senior playing professional basketball in a league full of grown men. Only a 13-game sample size. So, I think the shot, if you look at his box scores and like his shooting numbers, his percentages as a whole are kind of driven down by a few really bad games. Like games where he would go like 2 of 14 from the floor, right? And then like other games, a lot of other times he'd be like 5 of 13 or something like that, where they're not great, but they're not nearly as catastrophic as the season totals look, right? Like for example, in this game he was 8 of 17, 2 of 7 from 3, right? That's not like an eternally damning box score, I would say, He doesn't shoot any free throws in this one. We got, this was like where the pause happens, but we got Here we go. But like just like his overall box scores, I think were kind of like just skewed by a few just horrible games from him, right? And so I think that's kind of something that we need to take into consideration because remember, through the first 5 games of the G League bubble, like we were talking about Kuminga as like a competitor for the number 1 spot with Cade, right? And so I think that's something that needs to be kind of, considered. Obviously, the whole body of work, I think, like, Jalen Green doing that, obviously showing why he's number 2 guy on my board. Evan Mobley, Jalen Suggs are all really good players. I think they're all, right now, better prospects than Kuminga. But, I don't really think the gap is as far as people seem to make it seem. Right here, you can see Kuminga kind of gets lost on the screen a little bit. Decent closeout right there, but there will be times where he just kind of just says, fuck it, won't close out. There will be possessions where he just doesn't get into a stance at all, right? Like, he'll have some kind of, like, LaMelo Ball-like defensive moments. I think, like, kind of just, like, the effort needs to kind of iron out. And so, I'm not... Obviously, you'd like to see him be a little bit more impactful just because of his frame and fluidity. But, I think if he kind of gets to the right organizational structure, which I think Orlando would be a pretty good ground for him, I would say, honestly. Or Oklahoma City would be great for him either if he goes 5 or 6. Then it becomes kind of just like, okay, like I kind of can see the upside in Kuminga a little bit more clearly. But, in terms of like 1 to 5, I think Kuminga is closer to 4 than he is 6 for me, I would say. I kind of wavered a little bit, but now I'm just kind of like, I'm pretty much set with him at 5, clearly a 5. And again, I think it's more of a top 5 than it is like a top 4 than Kuminga separated, right? Like, if I had to group, like, obviously there's a top 4, and then from there it's like, whatever. But if I couldn't put Kuminga in his own tier, I'd put him in the top 5 rather than, like, the second tier, if that makes sense, right? And so, I just buy the upside, I buy the fluidity, and that's kind of where I'm at with him. You can see him right here, again, kind of on that low man, on that wing. Not much going on there for him defensively. And then a lot of times, too, it's just kind of like, it's kind of disappointing to watch him defensively because he just kind of, like, fades into the background, right? Like, he won't do anything really remarkable. I think, given his frame and everything, I think he has potential to do that. I think he leaves a lot to be desired defensively. Like, right here, for example, just the closeout is a little bit weak. He kind of just lets his guy go by him, right? Like, that shouldn't be happening with his physical gifts. And so, again, just, like, kind of, like, ironing those out. I think it's, like, a technique thing. I think it's, like, a discipline thing in terms of, like, how to close out, how to move your feet, right? And so if a lot of it right now is effort, obviously, but I do wonder, like, if he gets better overall, like, refined skills and techniques on the defensive end of the floor, how much of those effort concerns really persist, right? That's kind of like one of those things where it's like, I think sometimes, like, improper technique can kind of mask itself as an effort issue, and I'm not arguing that Kuminga has a great motor because he doesn't right now. But I think a lot of it may be a little bit conflated just because of the technique that he uses in terms of closing out, his overall stance, things like that. Right here, though, showing that quick decision as a passer, right? And again, like, I think right now this is where he kind of shows that kind of dangerous ability to be a good passer. And again, just like simple, incisive passes. So right here, he's going to kind of draw the double. It looks like the Swarm might be in a zone, right? But again, he's going to find this guy kind of in the middle of the lane, right? And again, it leads to a should have been a basket, but it wasn't. But, just kind of finding those release valves and pick and roll, things like that. I think Kuminga can definitely do that in his NBA career. Because I do think the passing is legit with him. He only averaged, 2.7 assists per game. But, I'm a little bit more bullish on that as him being kind of like, at his peak, like kind of just like a primary offensive engine that, not really like a guy like a Cade or a Luka, but more of just like a Kawhi type offensively, right? I don't think he'll ever get the shot making of Kawhi, but just kind of in that mold where it's like he can be a go-to scorer and then punish people with his passing once teams overcommit to him, right? Right here, he's going to shoot this step-back 3, kind of contested. It's going to be an air ball, and again, just kind of like the wayward result of his shot. It's not just that he shot 24% from three, but it's also the way he missed, right? It's not like he had a lot of ones that just rimmed out. There were some bad misses strewn across his season. And again, I think it's more of a form issue, and we'll see how legit that form is once we see him in the NBA and in the summer league, things like that. I think that's Kobe Simmons knocking out a three at half. So, but yeah, I think that was a pretty, fun first half. He'll do a little bit more in the second half offensively, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Again, Kuminga, solidly number 5 for me. Really no debate. He's not going to be 6, not going to be 4. In his own category at 5, I think, right now. So that's just where I stand on him. If you guys have any thoughts, if you disagree, if you agree, maybe we got a few people that think Kuminga should be top 3. I don't know. But I strongly doubt that's the case. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we will see you soon for part 2. Thanks so much, and have a great day. Bye.